Daniel? Good evening. Welcome to our town council meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 26th, 2025. Mr. Clark, if you could please take the roll.
Councilmember Lord,
Here.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Councilmember Ramirez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Callahan,
Here.
Mayor Marbot.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, if you'd all rise with me and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everybody. So, Mr. Clark, if you could please start off by reading us for the directions for public comments.
Please be advised that when joining the meeting, you are automatically muted. Welcome to tonight's meeting. The public was able to make public comments prior to the meeting, either by leaving a voicemail message or sending an email to the town clerk. There were no voicemails or email public comments for this evening's meeting. If you wish to speak tonight, please press star 9 and a host will be alerted. Pressing star 9 is known as raising your hand. Once you press star 9, you will be placed in a queue to speak and will be called upon by your name or the last 3 digits of your telephone number. Please wait to be called upon. Please state your name and address. If you are a hired consultant or town employee and/or if you are engaged in lobbying activities and/or representing an organization, please provide that information before speaking. Please be sure to be in a quiet area to avoid unnecessary noise. Time limit of 3 minutes will be imposed for each speaker during public comments.
All right, thank you very much. I'm now opening up for public comments. There's nobody wishing to speak in the auditorium. Nobody's wishing to speak in the queue.
No one in the queue.
Public comments is now closed. I guess we don't have to do the board and committee reports. We did a meeting last week, so unless there's anything to add to that, we're going to move past that. Anything? No, we're good. And also, we did the town manager's report last week. Anything else, Ralph, on there?
No, Mayor.
The town attorney, anything for you?
Yeah.
And town clerk, is there anything for you?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, all right. That takes us to item 11A. If you could go ahead and read the item 11A, please.
A resolution of the mayor and the town council of the town of Cutler Bay, Florida, revising the adopted final master plan design for the town's 16-acre legacy park and municipal complex project and providing for conflicts and providing for an effective date. This item was previously deferred per the January 7th and January 15th, 2025 special and regular town council meetings.
All right. This item's been before us a number of times. I think we probably had at least over 16 or 17 public meetings on this so far. Is that correct, Ralph, roughly?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. So why don't you go ahead and start us off for what we've got on the plate tonight?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, members in the audience, and members in the on the virtual world, as we call it. As the town clerk mentioned, this resolution was before you on January 7th. At that point, we had a PowerPoint presentation, which we will recap tonight as well, with Ms. Emma Jones, providing so many different options, right? To the point that we said, wow, this is kind of overwhelming, the number of options that we had. We then deferred that item. We then had, and I want to thank council members because a lot of times residents don't see that we had individual meetings with both myself, Emma Jones from Stantec, our owner's rep, briefing the council on, I think it was at one point, almost 16 different options that we discussed. Then we had the item on the January 15th meeting, and we deferred it because I think Mary just said, business travel, that you were out of town. So we want to make sure at that point, the vice mayor is leading the charge there and the meeting. Want to make sure that not only do we defer to have a full council, but also, challenge staff to look at potential funding sources, different funding options that we have besides the general obligation bond that we have, looking at every type of revenue stream that we could allocate to the 16-acre legacy park. Since that meeting, we also had additional briefings with the council members, and where we feel, and we're going to present that, later tonight, where we feel that there's 4 viable options that we're gonna discuss at great length. But with that, I'd like to first start off with the potential funding sources. If you allow me, Mayor, I'm going to run through a PowerPoint presentation for the different funding sources. Also online today, we have our finance director, Robert Daddario. We also have our financial advisor, Lourdes Albertine, as well. But with that, if I could just go ahead, Mayor, and start the quick presentation. I want to get to the financial side first, and then we'll go look at the site plan pictures that Emma will present to you shortly.
All right, go ahead with that.
So just a little bit recap in the $37 million general obligation bond. We know that was approved in March 2022. We know that we have obligated funds. We have Salt Mickelson's. We have obligated $3.7 million and change there for the site plans and basically all the permitting that we need. We have Stantec, which is the owner's rep services that we have also allocated. And as you can see there, each one of these items we have executed via a resolution. We had Kimley Horn for environmental monitoring for $284,000. You can see there in italics that we're going to be moving that because we know that this is an item that is can be reimbursed through the brownfield program. So no need to obligate our general obligation bond there. And the big ticket item that, as we all know, was the one we adopted with Kaufman Lynn, which we call it GMP1, which is soil remediation, which is a $12.8 million, which we are allocating $6.5 million. And the original resolution, 2489, had $6.3 million coming from the general obligation bond. And you're going to see further in my presentation where we then made the decision to go ahead and take it out of our fund balance reserves. So removing the soil remediation monitoring, removing the big ticket items, and we know that right now we have obligated from the 37 million, $3.9 million and some change. What's that mean there? We have, again, like what I mentioned, we have available 33 million and 34. You see a little asterisk there because there are a couple maybe little minor charges for like surveying, but again, that's just something that's not in the hundreds of thousands, you know. So big picture, $33 million available. We have not drawn that down yet. You know, again, that's important to say. We have not drawn that down. There has not been any type of geo bond on residents' tax bills yet. Okay, we know that it's going to be a timing issue. So, mentioned this before in my agenda briefings, and we mentioned it during the last council meeting, that we know that we're going to have a $37 million par value, but when we draw down the bond, we're going to get premiums of an additional $2 million. Okay, so really when we draw down, we're going to be drawing down $39 million, and we're going to see that later. Quick snapshot. I know the clerks have that little box right on top of the number there. I don't know if people see that at home. If you can move that for me, please. Thank you, sir. Here, as of last CAFR, we know we have available fund balance, $26.6 million. We know that we at one point committed the $12.8 million, 6.5 from ARPA, and we obligated 6.4 from the GEO bond. We then said, you know what, let's go ahead and make the decision to take out the 6.4 from the $26 million fund balance. The math is there. You know, we have available balance of, $20.3 million some change. Again, we haven't drawn it down yet, but we know that's going to be, obligated. Approved developments that we've had that we know that we're going to be getting impact fees and is very key within the next 2 fiscal years. Again, that might change with additional, but these are plans that we have already approved. This information came right from my community development department. Briefly, so you see upcoming developments. We have the Contemporary. That area is the development right off of Southwest 216th Street. We have the Town Village, which is the number of 700 units that are right next to the El Dorado that we have approved. And then we have South Place City Center, blocks 12, 10, and 1, which there's going to be actually, commercial plug, a groundbreaking tomorrow at 10 o'clock. These are developments that are coming. These are the fees, impact fees that come directly for police, roads, public building, and parks. Currently, in our bank, we have the same silos, police, roads, public buildings, and parks. We have existing $539,000. That's sitting on our side right now. Combined, it will be a total of all the impact fees, $3.6 million. Don't need you to keep track yet. We're going to summarize that in the end. Florida's Communities Trust. We know that we received for Coastal Ridge Preserve, the property there, we received $865,000. Sorry, we were awarded $865,000. We know that we have a potential up to $1.5 million. Remember, that's the one I said that we were just below that line, that we're waiting for applicants ahead of us. If they do not close in a certain amount of years, then that money will come back to our bucket. We have an available bucket of 1.5 million, awarded 865,000. Veterans Park. I know that was one of those long council meetings that we had it on the like consent agenda. Oh, by the way, we received a grant for 1.5 million. Yeah, it's $1.5 million. So we know that available up to $3 million, the 1.5 and the 1.5 million there for those items. Again, why? Because that's going to come back into our fund balance because we already purchased the property and we reimburse our savings account. Voluntary cleanup tax credits as the benefits of having a brownfield. Okay, we have already approved, the first year we submitted over $58,000. Second year, $260,000. Third year, 113. Just to give you a emphasis on this slide here, that is exactly what we spent with our environmental attorney, as well as the environmental monitoring with Kimley Horn and soil sampling. That is 100% that has been approved by FTEP. In fact, this year, we just submitted literally, January 31st, a couple, weeks ago, for up to another $94,000 worth. So the total there approved, and I want to be key there, approved. We know that we have a total that's been approved, and then we know that awarded is 50%. So the 50% is what we already have received in terms of voluntary cleanup tax credits. As you know, we then sell it to, we have an agreement with Publix to purchase those vouchers, and we've had a great success record. So again, available, $526,000 that we have available there. Coastal Ridge Reserve, a lot of the conversations we had with our friends from Miami-Dade County, EEL. The county has shown interest over the last couple of years to purchase, there it is, 2.1 acres, which is about a 50-foot swipe along that property there for their coastal rehabilitation program there that they have. We have been in active negotiations. As the council knows, we worked very hard, and this was really a citizen-driven initiative. And I remember it felt like just yesterday we were all watching online. Remember, just when COVID first started, that we were on the B list. What's the B list means? That the county that this property is eligible for 50% of the appraised value. B list. If it was the A list, it would be 100%. But we all know that this property was a farm back in the day. 1932, I think it was. So that's why it's on the B list. So EEL, in between everything else, we've been working closely with them. They have performed their required 2 appraisals, just like we had to do 2 appraisals when we acquired our properties. Based on the appraisal, they have an initial offer of $910,000. As I mentioned before at the council, I kindly told our friends at EEL, thank you, but we paid $1 million an acre, and they're right, because it's based on 50% of the value. And I told him there's not a really inkling to sell that property there. Thank you, we'll absorb it. Yes, put it in public, that's part of our negotiations. Just a couple of weeks ago, myself and Mayor Mirabot met with Commissioner Cohen-Higgins, and we started talking to her about, hey, we know this is a very important clog for the county, because the reason why they want to put that 50-foot swath there, because they don't want to disturb the jurisdictional wetlands that are right next door. Our property does not have jurisdictional wetlands. It's called a buffer land. It's called upland. So puts us in a nice position. We had a great meeting with Commissioner Cohen-Higgins. We kindly told her, look, for me to even bring back this deal to the council, we need to have another $910,000. It has to be somewhere in that $1.8 million range. Can't guarantee anything, but at least it'll be something that we could bring before this council, and the council could deliberate about that. And we think that there's a great opportunity of tapping the Biscayne Bay Environmental Enhancement Trust Fund. That is exactly what that trust fund is made for. Mayor Mirabot serves on 2 of the Biscayne Bay committee meetings, and he's seen a lot of those expenses, and we think this is a very good eligible expense. And I think that for our standpoint, again, looking at every funding angle that we can receive, that's another 1.8 million that we will be able to bring back and put back into our reserves. Why? Because we paid for this property already. So we have that. We also have the FCT grant. So see how some of that kind of ties into that one property. Now, potential grants, and I think we all know about grants, right? We have to apply for it. They're not guaranteed, but we're going to apply for them, right? But again, taking that challenge that we got the clear direction with the council and the vice mayor's motion, we wanted to make sure that we're looking at every single grant. We looked at everyone. I'm not going to bore you too much with the Brownfields grant because this presentation looks familiar because we did this once before with Michael Goldstein. We know that we're eligible because we're local regional grants. Brownfield assessments grants, we know that. We have brownfield assessment grants, different pages there that we have, and you'll see in a second. We have brownfield cleanup grants. We're very familiar with that. You're going to see that in a second. Brownfield revolving loan grants as well, if we need to get to that portion of it as well. Brownfield multi-purpose grants, job training grants. Remember, the town hall is located in a brownfield as well if we need to set up some type of programs. This is the most important thing I think we have here is that part of the ARPA funding, they have a huge amount of money, $1.5 billion of funding available for the bipartisan infrastructure bill that they have. We know that 1.2 billion is for project grants and 300 million to state and tribal response program. So what did we do here? Then we said, you know what, let's look at some of the state grants as well. These are all the different state grants that we looked through and compiled this report with our grants coordinator, as well as our environmental attorney, Michael Goldstein. Not to bore you, there's the details there, but I think on the bottom here, there's a potential of over $4.9 million worth of different grant funding sources there at the state level. Okay. Now, I want to add here too, that if you recall, we submitted an appropriation request through Senator Alexis Calatayud and Representative Omar Blanco for Brownfield as well. Okay. And then we have the federal related grants, in which this one should look familiar. We have a $4 million application. As I mentioned before, we're pending an appeal. Right now, we submitted an appeal. They have denied us based on the threshold. We think it's a technicality. I've been working closely, and thank you, Mitch, with Roger, Justin, and Chad. We feel that we have a really good appeal. And as I mentioned, to Mayor Mirabot, it may require us to go to EPA. So I think, Mitch, you want to add about that? Because I think you guys did a great job.
I just want to caveat that notwithstanding that we feel that we have a good case, these are extremely difficult.
Right.
And we can't, promise a result at this time. These types of appeals are difficult. We talked about also, trying to work with our elected representatives there to help us with EPA if possible. So that's another tack that we're taking.
And I think, Mayor, with this grant, and thank you, Mitch, I think with this grant, it's a technical issue that I just want to make sure that they at least provide us the even playing field, saying that we're an eligible applicant. Okay, we know it's very competitive. We understand that, but as I mentioned before, this is hasn't been seen in since the beginning of the Brownfield program that much money by the bipartisan infrastructure. So there's a lot of pressure to push those funds out. And again, this is just over here. It's just over $100 million worth of potential grants there. Again, those are grant applications that we can provide. So another option, looking at options, right? Well, we know that we could always go through what we call the traditional municipal tax exempt loan. We've done those before. We're just looking at the most recent rate, and we know if we get a $10 million loan, 15 years, 4.1% rate, we know that that's our annual debt service. Again, that's if we need to get that loan, but I want to show that as an option. We also have in the Florida Department of Environmental Protection state revolving loan, where we know that we could extract all the infrastructure, water, sewer, and stormwater cost from this project at a really low interest rate loan, which is going to be lower than our bond. So again, we're looking at every single angle that we can here. So recap the summary of the funding sources here, and this will be my last slide, Mayor, so then we'll get help with some comments. But I know it's, again, as I mentioned before, we have $33 million, but we also will obtain another $2 million from the premiums. So right there, you're just doing the quick math. We know we have $35 million. Developer impact fees that are going to be collected within the next 2 years. Again, 3.6. We're really confident about that because these folks are, and again, we didn't even put the other ones that we know that might be coming that haven't been developed yet. We have that. The Florida's Community Trust proceeds. We have the Florida's Community Trust proceeds there. where we have, this one is comprised of the 1.5 and the 800. I didn't put the empty bucket fill yet, right? I'm saying what we know that we have been awarded, okay? Which is the 1.5 for veterans and 865 for conservation park. The brownfield voluntary tax cleanup credits, $526,000 that we have there. The potential eel property, right? There's the potential eel property there. We know that if we combine both of those, it'll be the $1.8 million there. So total there, just focus on this number for a second. We know that within, again, the total potential funding sources, there will be about 43 million some change. Now, we also provided the council another option. We know that this option has always exists, is a tax exempt loan, of $10 million. And we know that if we extract out the infrastructure costs from our project, we know that we could also split the project up and have about $2.5 million from the state revolving loan fund there. So I want to end on this chart here, where it kind of gives a clear path of all the different funding sources. Again, you don't see any type of grant potentials there or what have you. This is stuff funding that we know that we're really confident that it's going to come in, over the next 3 years. And I say 3 years because we know the project's going to be anywhere from, 3 to about 3-year project. So at that point here, Mayor, again, I have our finance director, I have, Lourdes Albertine, I have Michael Goldstein, I have all these professionals and experts here, as I call them, in the queue. If there's any questions for us.
All right, thank you, Ralph. First of all, I'd like to, say thank you very much for being very creative and looking for additional funding sources without having to go beyond the obligation bond and look to the assistance for additional money. You have to recall that when this was first in front of all of our citizens, the cost of construction was extremely low compared to now. And over the last 4 years, we've seen incredibly record inflation. And everything is going up everywhere. Thank goodness our property values are going up as well to help us out with that. But we also know that we're already faced with things like our Cutler's Park pools need out of life, going to be need to replace. So there's many things that are going to be covered in this new legacy park that we're going to have to be done either way for any of our citizens to maintain any type of recreational abilities that they had in the past. So, again, in order for us to give our residents what they deserve and what they envisioned, we needed to find these type of funds to pay for. So thank you very, very much for reaching in that. And I just wanted to say one thing. When we did meet with Cohen Higgins, she was very enthusiastic about the money she could get for the eel property. So I'm very, very encouraged about that. Also encouraged that the times that Ralph and I have gone to DC, we've been very successful and convincing them of a couple of things. Number one, we've got a great track record for getting projects done properly and very efficiently. So they know that we're not wasting the government's money. And we've always been willing to put a match in there as well, which they've always appreciated. And the bottom line is they trust us. And as long as we can demonstrate a sincere need, and we've already demonstrated our proficiency and efficiency, they've been very supportive of us. So I'm encouraged about that. So I'll open up we'll start off with the finance part. I'll open up to the council for any questions if there are any. So any questions, Councilman Duncan, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for our financial advisor, just to get clarification. So firstly, thank you, Ralph, for putting all this together. My question is the two loan options, just for the sake of knowing, I'd like to know what impact on our bond rating would there be if either one or both were to be utilized?
And thank you, Councilmember Duncan. I think if we could get Lourdes on the phone, on the call here. Lourdes, are you there? She's on mute. Let me see.
Okay, I think I'm here. Can you repeat? I'm sorry. I was so busy trying to unmute.
No worries. Thank you for joining us. No, my question mainly is the two loan options, the $10 million and the $2.5 million state loan options. If those were to be exercised, what impact would there be on our bond or credit rating, if any?
I mean, as long as you're able to pay for them, which you wouldn't be allowed to issue if, of course, you can prove that you could pay for them. It wouldn't really have an effect on your bond rating. So it would, your bond rating would be affected if you started to put stress on, some of your revenues, but at this point, you would be fine.
Thank you.
And Councilman Duncan reminded that the annual debt service on that was it was $904,000. So it's not anything exorbitant compared to our budget. Just want to point that out.
And I think, Mayor, just if Lourdes, because I know we've had a lot of internal meetings with yourself and Robert, I think a lot of the discussion we have, and maybe you could expand on that a little bit, Lourdes, regarding the option of obtaining that tax exempt loan versus what the mayor mentioned before, trying to get the funds from our fund balance. If you could just explain that dynamic as well for the council as well.
Well, what we were talking about today is if right now you could borrow those $10 million at like what Ralph mentioned earlier, like 4.12% interest. And if you took those $10 million and you bought a CD, you could probably get 4.4% interest for a year. Now, obviously,
Let's
this
buy
is
more.
right. So that's what I'm saying. So right now, why would you deplete your debt service reserve fund, at a time where you have like, growth, right around the corner with all these, new developments coming up? This is kind of the time to stay flexible. So right now the market it's cheaper to borrow than it is to use your own money. So.
And thank you, Lourdes. And I think that's kind of I want her to lead me to the segue because I know there's been a lot of talk, when people see, oh my God, there's $26 million in fund reserve. And I said, we're going to develop an aggressive investment strategy once we decide what we're going to do with Legacy Park, once we get to the point of issuing the guaranteed maximum price not to exceed to our existing contract. And then we know we'll have a clear path of aggressively investing some of those monies in what Lourdes mentioned. So see how everything kind of interconnected there, Mayor? Because I mean, that's something very important where Lourdes says that we could actually put some of our money on our CD and actually pay off that, it's make money on and pay off that 4.12% interest on the loan. So thank you, Lourdes.
It'll cover the cost of your debt.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councilman.
Anything else, Councilman Duncan? No. Anybody else? Councilman Ramirez.
Hi, Lourdes. Just out of curiosity, I know a lot of times with home loans, you can put a lock to hold the rate. Is that anything that's even available so that if we get delayed or anything like that, so that the 4.12 doesn't go up? I mean, is that even available on these types of loans?
That question's for me?
Yes.
Yes. They are there, but those instruments usually have a cost associated with them. And I'm not sure that it's worth it. I don't think that the market in particular municipal loans is volatile enough that it would be worth, for you to be paying, a cap or a top. So, I mean, it would be something we could consider.
Right. In fact, Councilman, one of the things we talked about today has been our track record when we get these type of loans that we have no prepayment penalty as well. So that way, if we do land the grant, if we receive additional impact fees, if we need to make the decision to pay off the loan with no prepayment penalties, that's what the route will be going if we go that route. So that's been our track record. So I hope that helps as well. We're very aggressive when it comes to that. We want to have that ability to have a no prepayment penalty clause on it.
Anything else?
Sometimes that no prepayment penalty option comes with a slight cost to the interest rate, but we would do an economic analysis just to make sure we hit the right balance.
Correct. Thank you, Lourdes. And yes, but if that's the route and we get to that point, that's why we have Lourdes and we'll have that analysis as well. But as a general statement, that's what we try to go with that option first. So members of council, if that completes, I mean, we'll have, if you have follow-up questions, we're fine, you know,
Now let's
Lourdes
move
and.
on to the,
Okay, okay, thank you. So next up, we have, you know, Emma Jones, our owner's rep. Just a little a preview. I advise Emma that we, you know, we have the 35 slide PowerPoint presentation, which, you know, we have it. It's on file in the clerk's office. We actually have 10 printed copies here for the members of the audience. But certainly what I wanted to tell, I told them, I just kind of let's go ahead and just jump into the 4 options. But certainly, Mayor, members of council, if you want us to do a quick recap, it's your call. We're ready to do either one, Mayor.
now let's go ahead and again, quite honestly, we've been through the PowerPoint with this a number of times. Again, I've talked about the 16, 17, probably 18 meetings we've had. So let's start with the different options that are on the table for us right now. I believe there's 4 different options.
Yeah, perfect. And before Emma starts, I want to again thank the council for the public. We've had several meetings that I'm sure you've already memorized all 30 slides, you know, with our meetings, individual meetings with Emma. So thank you, members of council. That does take a lot of time.
Those
and-
slides are available on our website.
The slides are available. And in fact, what we'll do also, we'll do another one where both my presentation, the full presentation that Emma's going to do, Mauricio, the clerk's office, if you can, go ahead and uplink that in case somebody wants to, you know, click on our eScribe and they could download that as well. And we're certainly available to members of the public and online or in person if they want to review that. So with that, I think Emma's up and running. So Emma.
Good evening, everyone. Emma Jones, owner's representative for Town of Cutler Bay with Stantec. I wanted to reiterate the comments and just thank the town manager for such a great financial summary. I think that really sets up the stage for, you know, what you're going to see next. Again, just echoing the sentiments that slides 1 through 14, we're going to skip those because everyone has already seen those. However, this entire presentation will be available on the town website. With that, I will jump into the options. So option 1, you can see my cursor. Item A is the community center pool and pool building, as well as the pool and the deck. So that item is the total cost for that is 14.3 million. And that item is consistent through every single option. We as a group have sort of identified that is going to move forward, as is obviously the remediation of the soil so that the park will be open. So that to us, obviously moving forward, and we have to date released the design team to work on the permit documents for the community center, the pool building, and the pool only. So that way everything is moving forward as we're going through these different decisions. So I just wanted to get that out there. In this option, B, the town hall is a 3-story building, and the cost of that is 18.2. And I will note that the 3rd level is just a shell space. And what that means is that the elevator will go up to the 3rd floor. The bathrooms will be fit out on the 3rd floor. The walls, exterior walls will be drywalled, and there will be conditioned HVAC pumped into the space. However, there are no internal walls, doors, etc. The item C is the police department. We went back and looked at really what we needed here, and we said, okay, we could do a 1-story police department. The cost of that would be 6.6 million. D is the parking garage. That's a 3-story parking garage, 350 spaces. Cost of that is 7 million. E is the park and open space. The park amenities that are shown are the walking paths and the golf cart parking. There's also a stage and park restrooms. And then the site infrastructure and the site concrete and paving finish out the overall cost. And so the overall cost for option 1 is $62.6 million. Option 2, again, the A does not change. So the community center pool and pool building. In this option, B, the town hall is only 2 stories for 13.8 million. The police department at location C here is 1 story, again, 6.6 million. The parking at D has changed now to surface parking for 825,000. And E, you will see the park amenities, so the walking paths, golf cart path, and golf cart parking, and then the stage is also in this. Now, in this option, we have eliminated the park restrooms that were only dedicated for the park, but keep in mind that there are restrooms available within the community center. Again, in this option, we have the site infrastructure as well as site concrete and paving. So the total for this option is 51.2 million. Option 3, the community center pool building and pool deck at location A stays the same. B, the town hall is 3 stories for 18.2. And then instead of having the police department at location C, we have in this option, we will be fitting out that 3rd floor shell space that I mentioned for the police department. The cost of that is between 900 and E in this option again is surface parking. E is the park space with the walking paths and golf cart parking. And this option also has the stage in it. Again, site infrastructure, site concrete and paving. The total for this would be 49.9 million. Option 4, again, location A, community center, pool building, pool, stays the same. B, the town hall in this scenario would go to 2 stories for 13.8 million. The police department in this option would stay in its current location in town hall where it is right now. And the rental cost in that location, it would be 185,000 a year. And obviously that would increase by cost of living percentage of approximately 3% per year moving forward. D, the parking stays as surface parking. E, the open space and park stays the same with the walking paths, a stage and event event pavilion, and then site infrastructure and site concrete. And the total for this is 44.6. I did want to mention we have been vigilant, as you know, I'm sure everyone's aware of the political climate and the tariffs that have been imposed. We are looking to make sure that we will not have any increases in prices due to materials. So we are very aware of that and are designing and changing things accordingly.
Ralph, sir?
And thank you. And Emma, before we open up for questions, can you just briefly talk to the council where we obtain these costs? So that way, you know, for the council and the general audience can understand where these numbers were coming from that we.
Of course, yes. No, these numbers were not pulled out of the sky. We received these from our contractor, Kaufman Lynn, and we have been working in lockstep with them to develop these pricing options and be able to provide, obviously, the alternatives for everyone's consideration.
And I think members of the council, I know we talked about it during our individual briefings, but for one of the things that we are very proud of that we have selected the contractor early on. So when we come back to the council with the GMP guarantee maximum price, we call it guarantee max price number 2, it will be that not to exceed number there. So going through, you know, the options there, I know I know you have option 4 kind of static there, but if we just kind of blank the screen there for a second, we know that those numbers there, and we have Charles Mickelson here in the audience. Hi, Charles. Thank you for coming. We know that we will then now go back to the design team, knowing that these are the options, right? And then, again, further value engineer. I like saying beat up, but further value engineer the project to bring down that cost there. And then come back with not to exceed maximum price contract from our contractor. But again, this kind of provides a flexibility because I have the design team kind of like on standby with, is a town hall 2-story, 3-story, police department separately. But regardless, I think we want to reiterate that item A, which is our pool, community center, and pool deck, that is being designed right now. This process that we're in right now hasn't slowed down the production yet, because that's always been the focus there right now. It's just a matter of moving forward and getting that clear direction from the council. So thank you, Mayor.
All right, well, thank you very much. A lot of very interesting options that were put in front of us. And Ralph, I do agree. There are some constants to all 4 of these different options. I think the council, we could probably agree on, but I'll get your comments in just one moment. One of those is that, the community center pool, the pool building, I think that's a no-brainer. That's something that's in all options, and I'm glad that that is. Also, the cost of a parking garage right now, quite honestly, just isn't within the realm of possibility for us, and that's something that we would like maybe someday, but I think the council would probably be in agreement. And again, I'll hear from you in a moment whether you agree that's just not in the cards right now. The only other small thing, which is the whether you add the bathrooms to the park or not, that's an $800,000 in addition to do that. Where there are bathrooms available at the community center, so a little less sure everybody's going to agree on that one, but I would think that that's not a must-have right now. So really, what it comes down to is 2 things. Number one, do we go 2 stories for our municipal building, or do we go 3 stories? And we have talked about it in the past. It's the Cutler Bay is going to be growing eventually, and trying to find additional space and going up at that at a later date would be cost prohibitive. When you're building now is the most economical time to do that. The other thing is, what do we do with our police department? Again, to build a standalone police building, I think was $6.6 million, which again, at this point seems, in my mind, that money would be better spent to add the 3rd floor and house them temporarily right there. Or as opposed to even keeping their space here over in Town Hall, $185,000 a year. You got to remember that the federal government, the state government see projects like police buildings, fire safety buildings, as something that is very, very worthy of funding. Matter of fact, last year we came very, very close to landing a grant to build a police department, but it was redlined at the last minute. So there's always the option that we could chase those dollars and build a standalone later, and then utilize the 3rd floor like we intended for growth or for whatever we may need. So out of all these options that were presented in front of us, I really like option 3 for a couple of reasons. Number one, because it does what I said as far as going from 2 stories to 3 stories on the municipal building. It brings our police department with us. It gives them temporary housing right there with the ability to chase those funds later. And it leaves all the other things later, down the line. If we're able to build a parking garage down the line, great, or add bathrooms to the park, great. All the extra things that we want, which is very little to add compared to what we have on option 3. The other options 1 and 2 are, again, those are the costs are much higher. And option 1 is at 62 million. Option 2 leaves a 2-story building for us, so I don't like either one of those. So if it were my druthers, I would think that we would go with the option 3. And again, so when you're option 3, I think that's using the bond money plus the additional sources of funds that we've come up with without having to go out and getting other loans or anything like that. Is that correct, Ralph?
Option three will, if you recall, we had approximately committed, funds close to, $43 million, close to $44 million. But it'll provide us some of that flexibility if we need to fill that gap with that tax exempt loan without tapping or dipping into, I like using the word dipping into, our fund balance.
Right.
So it gives us that flexibility, Mayor. We always know we have that, but then that's that creative dance that we have to do. Going back to Councilman Duncan's question, where's that sweet spot for the bond rating? So I think, Mayor, if that's the route, we know that route. I think we're confident that could be built for that with that loan option towards the end.
Okay. All right, well, that's what my opinion on that. So looking for other comments from the council. Vice Mayor Callahan?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. The one thing I wanted to point out too with possible funding is I don't think that we we mentioned it because of our fiscal responsibility. The fact that over the last number of years, we've put anywhere from $3 to $5 million back into our savings account, so to speak, right? Our fund balance. So if we're looking at a 3-year project, right, for this to be completed, we're looking at a potential additional $15 million that could be available at some point in time, right? So just to, as you look at the financials, just something to keep in mind. Before I get into my comments, I just had a couple of questions for Emma. One of the questions I think has already been answered through option 3, but we said that the 18.2 was to basically build the restrooms, put drywall on the exterior walls, air conditioning the space. Now, I know I asked this question before, but if you condition a space, would that 18.2 include drop ceiling and insulation and stuff as well?
No, it would not.
It would not. Okay, so
Does that, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt, but the 900,000 police fit out cost, does that include that as well?
Yes, it does.
yeah, that's where I was. So that's exactly what I was trying to get to, right? What did we get for the 18.2 versus, and the additional 9? So that kind of answers that question. Okay. The second thing though, have we signed the AIA agreement with the contractor yet?
No, Vice Mayor. The only thing we've signed so far was GMP number 1 for the 12.8. We have not signed an agreement yet because once we decide the options, value engineer, we have our design team design it, and then we come back to the council for that amount.
Okay, so and I've been a party to well over 100 and some construction projects, and from the smallest to the largest, not a single one has never not had a change order. All right. So I know we're talking about guaranteed maximum price and everything, but will the AIA contract address change orders? Have we looked at that? Because this project will have change orders, just because there's unforeseen circumstances. Like you go to improve a road and you pull up the old asphalt and find muck, so that's, I just want to clarify that because, a guaranteed maximum price is one thing, but it doesn't include change orders and, have we accounted for that?
I'm going to let Emma answer that question because I know we had that regarding the whole purpose of the GMP, Emma, with the contract.
So yes, we did address the whole discussion of change orders when we negotiated GMP 1. And the goal, the reason why we brought the contractor on early through this design assist process is to mitigate as many change orders as possible. And that is, that's a lot of the reason why we pushed to bring them on early so that we would have these checks and balances as we were going through the process. So, we hit pause on the design development when that second pricing came in and we said, oh no, that's not okay. Now we need to look at what we can change. So there, change orders will be based on a change of scope, but the idea is, these are the numbers moving forward. Our goal is to value engineer and reduce them, and to design at this point to avoid any increases that, may be out of our control. And when I say that, I mean any of the additional taxes that have been, batted around from the federal level. But we are looking at everything and very cognizant of, the design and how to avoid any potential increases in the future.
Perfect. And I certainly appreciate that. I know it's a difficult process, but I'm glad that, and I wanted that to be put on the record that behind the scenes, we've done you guys have done a phenomenal job to mitigate change orders as much as possible. There will be, but to mitigate those and be able to keep this within the budget is very, very important. So again, one of the things, that we always talk about when we plan projects and stuff is to think about today, but plan for tomorrow. And that's never to be short-sighted on a project of what you see for today and not being able to understand what may be needed tomorrow in the future. And to echo the mayor's comments, I agree that option 3 gives us the best ability to be able to meet both of those statements, right? We think about today and what can we plan for tomorrow. There's been many times I've been involved with projects where we've been so short-sighted that we've never planned for tomorrow. And then once you get to tomorrow and you have excess growth or need storage or need this and need that, you never plan for it, and it becomes 3 times as expensive to be able to remedy the project as if you had thought about it from the very beginning. So that's why I'm very much in favor of adding the 3rd story. So the question was, what do we do with the 3rd story? And again, to the mayor's point, having the police department be able to occupy that 3rd story in the beginning really puts us in a better budgetary position with the 49 million based on the financial data that we just looked at. Again, to the mayor's point, as we look towards tomorrow, there's always that ability to be able in the future to add a police station with minimal impact to the operation of the entire facility because it is a standalone building, right? So in lieu of that, if we built a standalone police station and a 2-story building to in the future be able to add a 3rd story is really going to be 3 times as much money as it is today. And then just think about the disruption to the operation of trying to add a 3rd story for potential growth in the future. And again, to the mayor's point with the park restrooms, it is $800,000, but to be able to provide the infrastructure for that and add that at a later date, again, is thinking for tomorrow. And again, it's not such a huge price tag, but when you start counting pennies, it does kind of stick out like a sore thumb, especially since we do have other options. After really reviewing this project extensively and being involved as I have, I do agree with the mayor's point. I think that for the budgetary figures and for the options available, that option 3 would best meet our needs as of today and as we plan for tomorrow. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I yield back the balance of my time.
If I can add one more item, apologies for interrupting. I did want to mention that even if the police department is not built at this juncture and option 3 is chosen and it's 3 stories of town hall, that all of the underground infrastructure will be put in place for that building at a future date. So we are not going to have to, dig up everything in the future. We are planning for the future. All of the everything that infrastructure that you can't see that is underground, that will all be in place, regardless of whether we build the police department now or in the future.
Councilman Ramirez?
Thank you. I like that in-depth review by our vice mayor. Thank you for that. I also am in agreement on option 3 for several reasons. First off, if you look at the cost to do the build out for the police department, and what the rental is right now. In 6 years, we're actually breaking even and then start saving money from there. And this is a 3 to 4 year project. And in that time, we also don't know what other grants we're going to get. If we can hit federal money, we can hit with the EOC, maybe the county chips in and stuff like that. So I like the fact that the infrastructure is going to be there for the C section of this. And that to me was real important. Plus, if that does become, if that does come to fruition, we also have the third floor, which we can do several things for, whether we can rent out space or we can use it for other purposes, or even just if it becomes storage, at least it's something that's for us. I like the fact with C, maybe even blacktopping it and having it as employee parking. And then on the weekends, possibly that could be where we have our food truck events and everything else like that. You have a big space right next to it for that, for us to do those events and stuff. So, of course, A is always on our number one priority there, to give the community back what they expect. So I think 3, and when you look at the funding, you look at the numbers, and the options that it gives us, to me, 3 is the option that I prefer as well. So thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Emma, for your comments. Thank you for all the time you have spent with me individually, having these conversations with all these options. This is a very, very big decision we're making as a council, but one that we've been elected to make. And I'm very confident in where we stand with all these options. And I thank you for your time. Thank you to the town for that comprehensive financial summary. That has provided not only me, I think the council as a whole, with the confidence to make this decision. We have always been financially transparent and fiscally responsible. And I think that financial summary proves that very point. Would I love to start with option 1? Of course, right? But then that negates what I just said about our financial responsibilities and fiscal duties. I too like option 3. I like option 3 for numerous reasons. One, I'm going to echo again that the community center pool building, I'm glad we're already in the design process of that. This town voted for us to get the GO bond. This is what the town asked for. They wanted the green space. They're getting 12 acres of green space. I think that this shows our gratitude and our dedication to the residents. We are already moving ahead with that portion of all the options had that portion in it. I wanted to discuss quickly what we haven't really talked in depth about. I don't really want to go in detail with it, but I want to mention the elephant in the room, which is the brownfield cleanup and the $12.8 million. That is not included in this cost, but I have every confidence that we will get that money, a lot of it returned to us in grants from the EPA funding, all of that. We have amazing grant writers, and the federal government and state government reward people for doing the brownfield cleanup. And let's not forget that it's absolutely necessary that we do it in order to move forward with this project, right? Emma, thank you for commenting on the tariffs. I was very concerned about that when they went into place. I know that we get as a country, get a lot of steel from Canada. So I know that we have the guaranteed maximum price locked in, and we'll see how the tariffs affect that. But hopefully it won't affect it drastically. Are you concerned with that, Emma? These tariffs in particular?
I was initially, but honestly, the design team and the construction team, we are looking to change anything that would be affected by those tariffs. So we have already pivoted to mitigate any increases.
Oh, that's really great to hear. Also echo council, the rest of council has already spoken, with the exception of council member Duncan. I think the third story on town hall is necessary. Waiting to do that would be would be a financial disaster for us. I don't see us doing it in the future if we don't do it now, and we have to look forward to that. I also like the idea that our police department will utilize the third story until we're prepared to build the police station as a standalone building. And again, we could potentially have the funds to do that, this year, next year, so it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen sooner rather than later. And also that the fact that that location in option 3 could then become parking, which is, I think, going to be necessary. And finally, echo that at this point, in this juncture, with the use of the property, I don't think bathrooms are necessarily needed in Section E. They will be down the road, but we have other options to use. So I'm very happy with the way option 3 looks. And I want to, again, thank you, Emma and Ralph and the rest of the staff for all the information you provided to me to make my decision with confidence.
Thank you very much. Councilman Bell Duncan.
Bill Duncan. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo the sentiments of all of you here on the council as far as it pertains to option 3. I think that's probably the most responsible bang for your buck option of the 4 options. One thing for clarification purposes, just considering, this is a conversation. So we've already discussed that it would behoove us to use, if we're planning on using funds that we don't currently have available to us, whether they're future funds that we anticipate having surpluses in the next few years and or potentially low interest loans, it was more beneficial to do a low interest loan versus removing money from our reserves. So each of these options, 1 through 4, is going to require, if we don't have any surplus for the next couple of years, it's going to require some sort of a loan. So option 4 is a $1.2 million loan. Option 3 is a $6.5 million loan, and so on and so forth. If we've already looked at the debt service on what the maximum amount of loan would be, was under $1 million per year. If you're looking at that, you have the option between option 3 of a $6.5 million loan, or even theoretically future-proofing option 1 without the parking garage is only an $11.3 million loan. So if we're looking at needing to take a loan regardless, unless of course there is funds available from potential surpluses in the future that would mitigate that would either pay off a loan and or prevent us from taking out the amount of a loan possible. If we're looking at the difference between $4-ish million between the two, you can have a third floor with a standalone police department, at the very least moving forward in a planning phase that then would then qualify us to continue to move forward in a master plan to get additional funding to cover the cost of that police department right away instead of waiting for the future. Just playing devil's advocate, if we have to borrow the money and it is more beneficial for us to borrow the money versus take out the money that we currently have in our reserve, that is an option for us to consider, where we can give the residents more of what they wanted, more of the vision that we offered them up front right away, understanding that if a loan is necessary, a loan is necessary. We might be able to pay off that loan or not have to take out as large of a loan. Today's exercise really is giving all of our contractors a vision for how to proceed, whether we want to proceed with everything under the sun, whether we want to proceed with 3 stories, 2 stories, with a police building, without a police building. So just for something for the council to consider, if we're only talking about an additional $4 or so million between an option 3 as is and an option 1 without the garage, then I think that's something we should at least consider. I'm in favor of option 3 as is and moving forward without the police department building and potentially in the future seeking that type of funding from the legislature, from any other source that we can. I would also just say to consider if we can, for that amount of money, proceed where we include the police department with the third floor, where we can start chasing some of those additional funds right away. That might be worth considering.
Okay, so the police department right now is at 6.6 million, and the build out on the third floor is 900,000. So you're looking at a difference of 5.5 million.
Well, yeah,
So that'd be additional 5.5 million. What should you?
minus, so option one, if you get rid of the $7 million
Right.
parking garage, and if you don't have the infrastructure for bathrooms of 800,000, it's 11.3 versus 6.5.
Okay.
So 6 and change.
All right. That's,
Can I,
yeah, something to consider, Vice Mayor Council.
Good thing,
Elliott.
just for a point of clarification, right, in terms of process, okay? To your point, if we move, just to think about this, okay, because I've been down this road many times. If you were to move forward with Plan A, right, and then we direct our design team to create the construction drawings or permit set that includes a police station, right? And we get down the road and we don't have the funds for a police station, then it causes all kinds of changes that we have to go back, resubmit, and it could cause delays and cause additional expense.
I think my point is, so this is assuming we don't have any additional funding coming in outside of a potential loan where it's cheaper to take a loan out versus take money out of the reserve. As far as what the interest rates are, it's more beneficial for us to use loans, which we would technically have to use loans anyways if no additional funding came through for all of these options. Because if the cheapest option is 44 and we only have 43, we're still upside down regardless. So if no additional surpluses, no additional grant funding, if nothing else came to us, we are still on the hook for more money than we have available to us. So a loan and or transferring money out is the viable option. We can do both. We can afford to do both.
Ralph, do you have an opinion on this? I'm putting you on the spot there.
I think, as I go back jokingly, when we looked at like 18 different options, I'm trying to memorize one of the old PowerPoint presentations that Emma had up. I think, Emma, this sounds like option 1A in one of your many scenarios. I think if we could just put that on the screen, just so we can kind of visualize what Councilman Duncan is mentioning. I want to make sure. I think it's 1A if I recall. You could look up section option 1A, and I just want to,
is,
if you
yeah.
could kind of walk us through that.
Sure.
That scenario, kind of look at just, again, we had so many different scenarios, Councilmember, that we actually looked at that one as well.
I guess if I can, right before we get to this, my bigger question that would inform my better understanding and the council's understanding on this is it more beneficial for us to approve having the police building being designed right away to allow us to obtain or to search for funding now versus only doing the infrastructure and doing it later, is just my question.
Okay.
Is there a difference?
So
I
yes,
will-
and I'll take it. This 6,000 square foot police department that you have here, right? That is our current operation that we have through the contract sheriff's office. The original design proposed by the design team was a 2-story, 12,800 square foot, full blown, when I say full blown, full equipped police department, Sallyport, jail cells, training rooms, armory. That is for a in-house police department. Could be in the future or could be never. We don't know. That was the difference. So what we challenged, I challenged, Emma and the design team and our major Leo Rosselli was, okay, designed a 6,000 square foot, 1-story police department that mimics the operation that we have here. And I said, no offense to the law firm, it operates like a law firm, right? You go in there, there's cubicles, there's offices, and there might be an area where they have their radios and cameras charging. So, but it doesn't have a full blown, say, to get the type of accreditation. So the number you see here for a 6,000 square foot police department provides you what we have currently right now. It doesn't provide you a full one. We know that if there has to be at one point in the future, has to be a full police department, we might have to expand to south versus building on top of that building. We know how expensive that is. So that is the word of caution, meaning that's why we had that scenario there. Okay. Just like when we studied scenario, we know, what if we keep the police department here? So I guess long-term wise, when we were chasing the grants for police department, we would go for the full-blown police department. that has the Sallyport, Armory, holding cells, interview rooms, et cetera, et cetera. This provides you the existing type of footprint. Again, that's with the asterisk, but we could.
And the only other question that I would have then, as it pertains to all of that, is today dollars versus future dollars. So if right now, we're looking at 6.6 million or more, depending upon the size of a potential police department. If that's the cost today, and let's say we have the infrastructure in place underneath, and then in 2-3 years or whenever, we're looking at building a police building there, whether we get funding or not for it. I'm afraid, I would fear that the cost would become prohibitive moving forward if things continue to rise in the way that they are.
So Councilmember, the option you have right there in front of you, we call that option, 1A. I'm going to let, Emma kind of walk us through that scenario so we know exactly what we're getting for this, this 1A. So Emma, if you could just briefly walk through that scenario real quick.
Absolutely. And before I do that, I just want to answer the Vice Mayor's concerns. We can do standalone permits for each building if need be. So we can prevent sort of permitting the whole thing and then having to go back and alter.
Yeah,
just
that was
as
going
an
to be my
option.
next point. Yeah.
Just as an
Okay.
option. We'll just pretend I didn't say that, and then you can say that. So what option 1A, again, A for the community center, that's a given. B, the town hall would be 3 stories with the third level space shelled. So that would have an elevator going up to the space. There would be bathrooms up there. There would be drywall on the perimeter. HVAC pipe to the space, but no internal walls, doors, etc. D would be the surface parking. So this takes out the parking garage of this option. Then E, the park, the amenities, the walking paths, golf cart parking, the stage. This option does not have the bathrooms in it for the park. And then site infrastructure and concrete and paving. And that's 55.6.
And if we were to build out the 3rd floor, it would be an additional 900,000.
Correct.
Yeah, so you're looking at 56.5.
Correct. And in this option, if there needed to then be an expansion of the police department, if you can see my cursor, we would expand southward into this parking lot area here.
All right, thank you very much. BG, that I like the way you're thinking as far as being frugal and actually it's being, the opposite of pound wise and penny foolish. So you're looking ahead to save money. However, I do think, obviously a lot of us had a lot to digest coming into this and trying to decide what the best course of action is. And I would recommend that we go forward with option 3 right now, because in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, we could amend this to go ahead and have the standalone police department added at any point without having any additional real cost in the planning. So it gives us more time to digest it. Also gives us more time to talk to our police department about what their future needs are. I quite honestly don't have a great enough grasp to decide at this point whether 6,000 feet is going to be enough for them going forward. And if we have to build on the side, again, it's the same thing. Tomorrow's dollars and be adding to those kind of costs. So for me right now, I think option 3 is great. We can go ahead and start having conversations with the town manager, with our police department to see what their future needs are. And we also can start exploring what type of grants we maybe get to go ahead and fund that completely without Cutler Bay dollars. So if you guys are in agreement with that, is there any disagreement on that? Any disagreement? No?
Motion
Well,
to,
Ralph, did you ask me real quick?
No,
Okay, good. All right, good. Vice Mayor Callahan, you recognized?
a motion to accept option 3 as the site plan approval as per agenda item 11A.
I second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And-
But
And thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I think now from our standpoint, we have clear direction. The next time you see this item will be when we have already designed it and negotiated side by side with our contractor, with our South Mickelson team, as well as with Emma. We'll do that, number one. Number two, we have Rod Gibson here, our communications manager. We will now go ahead and start updating the sign that's out there, making sure that now this is the vision, what we're doing, et cetera. We'll do that. And I think I want to, take an opportunity to thank the mayor and council because this has been very, very transparent process. I know when we started this journey, maybe like 6-7 months ago, we showed something that couldn't be built. I remember that, and we've gone through this process of many hours of meetings. And if folks have followed us, online and in person, we've been through this journey together. We're looking at the same numbers. You're seeing everything that we see as well. So, Mayor, council members, thank you because now the pressure's on us now to produce.
All right. Thank you very much, council. Again, a lot of work went into this. I really think Ralph has spent over 18 meetings on this. So I do appreciate your complete openness and candor and the transparency throughout this entire process. It's been very, very difficult. But again, we're not building something just for the next 2 or 3 years. We're building something for the next 60, 70, 100 years. We're not building a Taj Mahal that we've seen some other places. We're building something that's very practical. Yeah, it's going to really improve the life of all of our Cutler Bay residents, make Cutler Bay an even better place to live. So I thank you everybody for their cooperation, positive ideas, critiques. Well, I wasn't looking at you, Vice Mayor. And we go for it because it's all very important to make sure that we provide something that give the best bang for our buck for our residents. Thank you very much. And with that.